Today we're gonna go back to the travel feels roots. If you've been here since the beginning, you know what I'm talking about. We're gonna talk about 5 ways to make your travel films more epic. But first, so this is my good friend Jay Perry. Jay, what do you do?
Do some commercial videography, some photography.
Photography, indeed. He's a really good photographer, and more recently, a really good videographer.
Well, thank you.
And Jay was actually in some of that footage, that epic Norway footage in the intro, and we took one of the most epic trips to Norway. I think it was 4 years ago now.
Crazy.
Like,
yeah.
Time flies. 4 years ago, a 2-week trip in Norway, some of the most incredible and epic landscapes you'll ever see in your life. But just because you're in a really epic place doesn't mean that your footage or your video is gonna turn out epic. So that's what we're gonna talk about. But first, what is this, Jay?
So this is the Friends with Hearts logo. And Friends with Hearts is an organization I started 9 years ago. Crazy.
9 years you've been doing this.
And what we do is we sponsor kids at Christmas. And we help them experience the magic of Christmas, the magic of Christmas morning. Something that I know myself, I grew up very fortunate that I was able to experience what Christmas was all my life. And unfortunately, there's some kids that don't get to do that.
Yeah, just like that waking up Christmas morning. Actually, for me, it's Christmas Eve. I'm finished. We celebrate Christmas Eve.
Right.
Having those presents under the tree and getting to open that, and just that, like, just those amazing memories that I have, at least, and I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Being with your family, opening presents. So all the money that you guys gather,
every single dollar that comes in goes back to the families. And as much as I believe every child deserves a toy under the tree at Christmas, we also take care of life necessities. You know, clothing, winter boots, coats, diapers, some food. So it's having them experience the magic, but also taking care of what they need to live.
Makes sense.
We see some of these kids, and especially in Canada, going without winter boots. Terrible.
And it's pretty cold out, so kids need their boots. So Jay's doing really incredible work. If you want to join me in donating to Friends with Hearts, I'll link it down below. If you live in Canada, and especially the Toronto area, it's a really good cause to be a part of. Okay, so have you ever been on a really amazing trip with amazing landscapes, the scenery, the nature? It was just incredible. And then you go home and you start editing and you make this video, and well, it's just not that epic. We've all been there. I definitely personally have. There's so many times where you go to a really cool place and the video just doesn't quite convey the same feelings or the same things that you experienced while you were traveling, experiencing those things. So here's 5 tips for you on how to make more epic travel films. Number 1, I've said this a bunch of times, always carry a drone with you. Even if it's one of those tiny Mavic Minis, carry some sort of drone with you, because you can get a totally different view on the places that you're visiting using a drone. It's really good for those wide landscapes that give the viewer a different understanding of where you are and what you're experiencing. Some of the best examples, in my opinion, are when you're up high on a peak or on one of these crazy ledges like in Norway. If you didn't have a drone showing these angles, you just wouldn't understand what it's like being in that place. And sometimes it even gives a perspective that makes you understand while you're there just how grand and crazy some of these places are that we have in this earth. Jay, do you remember when I crashed my drone in Norway?
I do. I was very nervous. I thought that you would be very upset. But what was I was impressed with your demeanor.
Oh, I was upset inside.
You weren't showing it. You're very easy to be around. If it was the reverse and I crashed a drone on a job, I'd be not a good person to be around at that time. So I crashed the drone. It wasn't really my fault. I was flying in this area where there's this like big, antenna, massive, like old, I don't know, Russian space station looking thing. And I think that was interfering with my drone. And so I was gonna bring it down because it was being a little weird.
And it was only like, maybe like 10 meters up in the air or something like that.
You got it close. You got a warning, right?
Yeah. Something? No, it was just acting weird.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was just acting weird, and I was like, I'm gonna bring it back because I don't like how it's flying. It wasn't really like doing what I told it to do. So then I had it like really close, about 10 meters in the air, and then all of a sudden it just midair shut off, just like no propellers, just crash. And that was the end of that drone. And after that I had one mission, and that was to get a new drone because I knew how important it was to have a drone on that trip.
Driving around Norway trying to find a camera star.
Yeah, the tourism lady that we were working with wasn't too happy because we missed some other things, like a museum.
Yeah.
But in the end, that wasn't gonna make the video anyway, so we had to get a drone. Crashing a drone is never fun, but it's still so worth it to carry a drone around. Again, it's just so good for setting the scene and showing you that context. Without a drone, it's really, really hard to give that same context. And the best part is you can always get those high angles. It doesn't matter what your terrain is or where you are. You can always, as long as it's legal, use a drone to get those perspectives. You don't have to rely on trying to hike up somewhere to get some sort of vantage view. You can always do it. And that kind of leads to my point number 2, which is get high, not drugs, in elevation. It makes a massive difference if you just get up a little bit higher. Even if you have a drone, I still really recommend for you to find some sort of hill or mountain or tall building, something to get on top of. That perspective of you with this whole landscape kind of below you, that really sells the epic effect. If you don't have some of those in your travel films, I guarantee you your film will not be as epic as it would be if you just went up a little bit higher. Jay, what was your favorite peak or mountain that we ended up going to?
I forget the name of it, but there was the one rock that we were able to sit on.
Like the ledge sticking out?
Yeah.
Trolltunga.
Yeah, so that was like really cool, really hard for me to get to because if you watch the video, you can't notice because Matti is so amazing at what he does, but I had a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so you had to fake everything.
2 weeks before we were about to leave on the trip, I dislocated my shoulder. So I had a sling on for the majority of the trip. While we were filming, we'd take it off, and I'd kind of use my pocket as like a sling and just put my thumb in there. But you can't tell because he was so good because of like how
or you're just a good actor.
But because like you're saying, like different angles that you were able to shoot me. But yeah, getting on that rock was tough. I remember having to do like a barrel roll over to there because I can only use one arm. But that was a cool spot. Getting out there,
yeah,
that was so cool. There was another ledge that we stood on too. Again, I can't remember the name.
Puppet Rock one?
Yeah, maybe it was that. Yeah, but that was one of my favorite spots in Norway for sure.
Like it's actually crazy being on the bottom when you start those hikes and you're like, oh, this is kind of a cool area, and then you end up on those crazy cliff ledges, and like the view from there is insane.
Yeah.
Like you never forget that.
Oh, it was crazy. And I mean, that one spot we went to, we met some hikers up there, and they told us they had hiked 8 hours to get there.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if we told them because we were worried.
We did tell them, I think.
We took a helicopter.
We took a helicopter. It was like I think it was a 10-hour hike.
Yeah.
And we took a helicopter. It took 5 minutes to get there.
And the views we got from that were pretty cool. Again, super lucky that we had that access to the helicopter.
Yeah, it was so lucky.
Take us up there.
So the real tip here is to always have a helicopter on hand so you can get to a mountain area. The views completely change as soon as you go a little bit higher, and it's really easy to isolate you or your friend or whoever the subject is. When you're up higher, you can circle around with a drone or just get some really cool gimbal shots. Cannot recommend going up higher more. If you're not hiking somewhere or climbing somewhere, I don't think that you're gonna get the most epic shots that you could. Probably my all-time favorite drone shots are the ones where somebody's on the peak of a mountain or on the ledge, like in Trolltunga here, and the drone is just circling around, and it's just epic. Is anybody counting how many times I've said epic in this video? It's probably quite a few times. Okay, tip number 3 is human experience. You can be in the most epic place ever, but if the viewer can't imagine themselves being in that place, place if they can't watch somebody else experience that epic nature or have that perspective of a human in this insanely big landscape, you don't get that same epic feeling. For example, imagine me filming this crazy ledge on this cliff called Trolltunga. It's one of the most epic places I've ever been to in my life, but imagine taking the people off that ledge and just filming this ledge by itself. It just doesn't have the same effect. You don't really relate to it, doesn't seem as epic. It's definitely a flop without the people there. Or let's say you're filming the world's biggest wave ever. It's like 200 meters tall, but there's no surfer going down it to give you perspective of how crazy that wave is. If you just film the wave, you'd be like, yeah, that's a big wave, cool. But seeing a surfer go down a 200-meter wave, that's when you would think like, holy crap, that thing is huge. That makes it epic. Now, obviously be careful. You don't want to go too close to an edge. Always be careful because accidents can happen. So do not risk it. It's not worth it to get an epic shot. But when you're in some really cool scenery, include some people in there and it'll again give a completely different perspective to the place and make the viewer be able to really experience it in a different way, adding that epic feeling to your shots.
Jay, what did it feel like to be at Trolltunga on that ledge that sticks out like crazy and just be like looking over the edge? Did you look over the edge?
I did. I remember when we were there, I was using Snapchat because I don't think Instagram stories were around then.
Probably not, yeah.
And I was like putting the phone over and seeing my feet dangle off the edge. And it was nerve-wracking. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I knew that I've seen photos from there before, that it was like a really cool spot to be in.
Yeah. It was almost more scary to watch other people on the ledge than me being on the ledge myself.
I'm not great with heights.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did it for you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
You want people in your shots experiencing that nature and those cityscapes, and through that build that epic feeling and look. Number 4 is to get there before the crowds. You can be in the most epic place ever on earth, but if there's like 500 people around you crowding around, it kind of makes it feel more like Disneyland than some epic nature spot.
So a good example of getting there before the crowds was us having to do the hike to Pulpit Rock. Do you remember this? We left, I think, at 1 a.m. from our hotel to go on a hike that took like, I think 3 or 4 hours or something like that to get to the spot so that there would be no people there.
Very cool experience. Remember we had like the headlights on.
Yeah, it was
we had
completely pitch black when we started.
Walking sticks.
Super heavy backpack on with camera gear.
Yeah.
Yours was maybe a little bit lighter because you had shoulder
injury.
injury.
Yeah, had one arm to do this, so
yeah.
it was tough. I'd love to go back and do it again, like fully healed.
Yeah.
But that was wild. Doing it at that time, no light at all.
But can you imagine that experience of being on Pulpit Rock with like hundreds of people around there versus just us there like we were? Like it would be a completely different experience.
I've seen some photos online where there is hundreds of people there, and you're almost kind of like waiting in line for your 5 seconds.
Yeah.
That could take hours too.
Yeah.
Right?
And the footage just doesn't look as good when you have 100 people in there versus just you and Rebecca on that ledge, just like...
Yeah, I think that isolation is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And instead of like having to like take out all these people in post, which nobody wants to do.
Yeah, probably wouldn't do it, I guess.
It really sucks leaving a hotel at 1 a.m. There's nothing fun about that, but it is so worth it. I can't imagine being at a place like Pulpit Rock with 300 people crowding around versus what we had. It was just us, me, Jay, Rebecca, my wife was there, and then a guide. That's it. We had that whole place to ourselves. We could film anything we wanted, point the camera in any direction. There were no other people, just the subjects that I was filming. And number 5 is the music. You really need music that pumps you up and gets you excited and gets some sort of emotional reaction or feeling. If your song is a flop, then your video is probably gonna be a flop too. And most importantly, the song has to really be an extension of those visuals or vice versa. And this doesn't mean that you have to choose epic music like from a war scene in a movie or something like that, but
but it does need some punch to it. And more importantly, it needs contrast. If it's just the same thing the whole time, you kind of just get bored and lose that epic feeling, even if the start is really epic and the song and everything is really high paced. But if it's the same thing the whole time, well, yeah, you kind of just get desensitized. You want a song that has some nice build-ups, but also some quiet parts that then you can ramp up and get to that really, really epic stuff. Where are we on the epic counter now? Don't just pick the first song that you think is decent. Spend a lot of time finding the perfect song. Put all your footage in a timeline, look at it, figure out what's the feeling. How can I amplify the feelings and the mood in this footage? Is it moody? Is it sunny? Is it happy? Is it more serious? Figure out what's the mood and play off of that. Amplify that using the music. Don't choose a flop of a song. Choose a song that really fits your footage. All right, those are my 5 tips. I don't know if that's what you were expecting. Maybe you were expecting just like, you know, getting a red and shooting 240 frames per second on everything in 6K. I don't even know if a red does 6K and 240 frames per second. That is usually not the case. You could probably make a way more epic film on an iPhone nowadays than you could on a red because it's just easier to use an iPhone. Maybe not. Challenge me on that one. But gear alone is rarely the answer to making really epic films. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's gonna make it way more epic than just using a more expensive camera. Super fun catching up, Jay. Thanks for being a part of this video. And again, if you guys wanna help donate to Friends with Hearts, it is money well spent. So I'll link it down below. Check it out. Donate with me, please. I'm sure Jay would appreciate that.
The kids would be much.
Yeah, that's true. Jay literally doesn't benefit like at all from this. No. All of the money, he doesn't get paid or anything. All of the money goes to the kids and families. Yeah, so yeah, donate. All right, I hope you guys like this video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you guys have some other tips on how to make your travel films even more epic. We're really going back to the good old travel feels day. So why don't you guys go get some travel feels. See ya.